All right, so let's get into these licks here. Before I get into the licks themselves, I'm going to talk really quickly about the tone that I'm using here. I think it makes a little more sense here because this is a much more unique tone that I usually do in a lot of my videos. Most of my videos are typical, you know, overdriven, basic blues rock type of sound. And I obviously have some different things going on here. So let me talk about that really quick. So obviously playing in the style of Jimi Hendrix here in his basic fuzz sound. So what I did to get this sound, a few different important things. So first off, I'm playing through a Line 6 Helix, which is a amp modeler, effect modeler. So that's how I'm able to get pretty accurate sounds here to what Jimi Hendrix sounded like. I'm playing through simulations of the amps and the effects that he used. So really the basic setup here is pretty straightforward. So I'll show you it layer by layer so you can hear how I get to this sound. So the first thing is just a basic Marshall, classic Marshall amp simulator. It sounds a little bit like that. I'm playing in the bridge pickup position here. Nothing too complicated here. All the knobs are kind of in the middle. It's just a classic, JTM 45 classic Marshall tube amp type of sound. From here, I add a little bit of reverb. If I add that on, it sounds like this. It's a plate style reverb. And then here's where it gets really Hendrixy. So these next two things are really what give it this unique sound. So the first thing is the fuzz effect. So this is the model of the classic Arbiter fuzz face pedal. It sounds like this. So right now we're really getting into that Hendrix territory. So here's without the fuzz, here's with the fuzz. And then last but not least, we have the Univibe pedal. It gives it that kind of rotary speaker kind of effect. It sounds like this. So that's the Univibe. So just to recap really quick, we got the Marshall. We add a little reverb. We add the fuzz face. And then we add the Univibe. So that's how we're getting to that sound. If you haven't tried any of these modeler pedals, particularly the one I'm playing, the Line 6 Helix, I definitely recommend it. Really fun to play with, and they're getting to the point where they're able to produce pretty accurate sounds out of these things. They sound pretty good. So with that, let's get into the first lick here. So this first lick, and I'm going to turn off all my tones so we can hear this a little bit more clearly now. This type of lick right here is the type of lick where we play a simple few note pattern and just build up the speed. So Hendrix did this all the time. So basically the idea is like this. You take something really simple and then you speed it up. That's all I'm doing here. So this is really actually a 3-note lick. I bend up. So and then I speed up from like a 16th note triplet type speed to 32nd notes. So it goes like this. That's it. That's basically the whole lick. if I were to play it with effects, it would sound a little bit cooler. But that's the basic idea. So to get this down, a couple things. So the first thing is just to get the basic picking down, where you pick down on the 14th fret and then up on the 12th fret when you do the hammer on. So don't let when you see licks like this that are repeating and there's hammer-ons and pull-offs, don't underestimate the importance of picking. Picking well and picking cleanly when you pick those two notes makes the lick sound a whole lot better. If you miss some of those picks or they don't sound clean, it doesn't have the same effect. So watch out for that. The second part is get that hammer on really strong. You want to make sure that that 15, when you hammer on there, is just as loud as the other notes that you're picking. It's really easy to do something like this, where we hammer on that 15, it's not as loud as the other two notes, and you can kind of get away with that when you have a bunch of effects going on. But it's much more noticeable when you have the effects turned off. So get into the habit of really making sure that all those notes have pretty even volume. So to get that, you have to hammer on that 15 pretty hard. It's a firm hammer. So that's the big trick to get that lick to sound good. So that's it. That's the lick. One more time at a slow speed. Okay, so this next lick, this is another pretty easy one, and this is a lick that, if you ever heard the solo to the Machine Gun, the live version of that song, the one from Band of Gypsies, he does a bunch of this stuff where he does a trill and then just uses the whammy bar to kind of dive in and out of that trill. So he keeps the trill going and just add some whammy bar on top of it. So again, this is the type of lick which really only sounds really good when you have a bunch of effects going like this, where you have the univibe and the fuzz going. This would sound a little bit with a kind of clean tone. So really quick, it kind of sounds like this. Let me turn on the effects again. So, like I said, he does a lot of that stuff in the Machine Gun solo. If you haven't heard that solo, definitely check it out. It's a great solo. But the idea here is really simple. We just, with the left hand, we're doing the same thing. We're just trilling. We're just 12 and 15, we're just hammering on and pulling off. So if I were to take off the effects, it just sounds like this. That's it. And once you get that down, you don't have to do it exactly the way it's tabbed here, or try and get the the exact points where I'm diving the bar down. The idea is to get the trill down and then just experiment with the bar and doing it in rhythmic points to make it sound good. Just experimenting with different rhythms to do with it. So don't try and stick to the one thing I did here. Get the trill down and experiment with this. So basically get this down first. And little by little, just trying to throw this in certain places. You can do that too, where in this lick in the actual video, I'm doing very abrupt drops. Another cool thing is to do a gradual dive down and a gradual bend up. So when you have the effect going, it sounds really cool. So again, the idea here is not to play this lick for note. It's just to experiment with this general idea where you get a trill going and then you use the whammy bar to make the note go up and down. So that's it. So get this going and just experiment with different techniques on the whammy bar. Either doing sharp press down and pull up, bend up, you can even bend up, or gradual bend down and bend up. Different types of sounds. So let me just do that for a second to hear how that might sound. A little something like that. Okay, so for this last lick, I'm doing one of these big dive down and come back up whammy licks. So in the lick, I'm on the open B string. And the idea is to bend way down. I mean, get that whammy bar pretty much to the guitar. You want to go way down and then come back up gradually. So it's like this. And if I'm not picking the note to start it going, here's a trick. You can use your fretting hand to do a pull off on the string to get it to ring. It's like a pluck. It's like you're picking it. You're just picking it up here instead of down here. Being careful not to hammer the note. I don't want to fret the 5th fret there. I'm just plucking it. So that's the basic idea. And again, like with all the licks I'm playing in this video, they really are made to play with these type of effects happening. It sounds a lot better when you have this going, and this doesn't sound too great when you have a typical, overdriven blues type of sound. But that's the core part of the lick is really that. And when you get back up to the top, you get it back up to even. And then you hit the 17th fret on the 1st string here. So and then we're in typical blues lick territory here. So I'm bending up on the 17th fret. You can give it a little vibrato if you want. Or even some bar, so you can go like this. And then 15 on the 1st fret, on the 1st string, 17 on the 2nd, 15 on the 1st. Again, experiment with different vibrato, experiment with the bar. The idea with all these licks is kind of to take the basic idea and then experiment with different flavors of each of them. So, and then we do this. Just 17th fret on the 2nd string, 16 on the 3rd, and then hammer up 15, 17 on the 2nd string. So. And maybe a little whammy after that too. So again, experiment a lot. And you can take these really simple ideas in each of these licks and come up with some really cool stuff. So that's it. Let me play through this lick one more time at a slower speed and have fun with these.